Good morning, everyone. We'll call the December 6, 2011 meeting of the Jackson City Council to order. And if you would, please rise, and we'll ask Councilman Randy Wallace to lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Bow with me, please. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to meet this morning. We ask that the decisions we make are pleasing in your sight, which in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is roll call, and there you can show that Councilman Cisco is absent and Councilman Dodd, I think, is coming in. Item 4 is approval of minutes of the November 8th, 2011 meeting. If there are no additions or corrections to those minutes, we'll go ahead and approve those as submitted. And item 5 is the invitation for public comment. And if there's anyone present who would like to be recognized or heard on any item under new business, if you would make that known at that time, we'll be happy to call on you. And we have one proclamation this morning. We're honoring the USJ Bruins girls soccer team, our state champions for this year and the previous year. And as I come down and read the proclamation, Coach, if you'd have the girls come up and line up right here in front of the podium, if you would. Good to have you all here this morning, and we do have a proclamation to honor these young ladies. It's a proclamation whereas the University School of Jackson Lady Bruins soccer team is honored this day for displaying the highest standards of sportsmanship and fair play, and for being one of the best high school teams in the state of Tennessee. And whereas the players and coach of the USJ Bruins soccer team consistently demonstrated determination and a willingness to win, which led the team to victory again and again against the best teams in the state. And whereas Coach Chris Leonardi provided superb coaching skills, which enabled the team members to possess the confidence and ability to play the best of their abilities. And whereas the USJ Lady Bruins soccer team advanced to the TSSAA Soccer State Championship in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and whereas the team went on to win the 2011 Division IIA State Championship in Chattanooga, Tennessee for the second consecutive year, being one of only 8 teams in the state of Tennessee to accomplish such a feat. And whereas the USJ Lady Bruins soccer team has earned the distinguished honor of being the first high school team in Madison County to win a soccer state championship for 2 consecutive years. Now therefore, I, Jerry Gist, Mayor of the City of Jackson, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, December the 6th, 2011, as University School of Jackson Lady Bruins Soccer Team Day, and urge all citizens to recognize the accomplishments of this talented team. Let's give them a big hand, if you would. Ladies, we congratulate you on this great honor, not only for your abilities in the game of soccer, but also for being tremendous ambassadors of our city as you travel to Chattanooga. So thank you and congratulations to you. Coach, let me present this to you, and if you'd like, let you introduce the girls. And if we have any parents in the audience, won't y'all please stand? Let us know who you are. Let's give them a hand. These are the ones that provide carpool for at least 6 or 7 years for them to practice soccer. Coach?
We have Shelby Jordan, Bethany Ditz, Rebecca Sears, Terry Cobb, Sarah Slack, Sadie Hill, Sarah Pierce, Emily Mitchell, Claire Williams, Lauren Pitcairn, Destiny Kramer, Anna Pearson, Anya Dari, Meredith Masterson, Addison Dunn, Rachel Butler, We had also 6 other girls that are still at school because they have a big concert to get ready for tonight's music concert. So appreciate again for having us. We're on our way back to school. These girls were studying on the way here, on the way there. So we'll let you guys back to your work.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, item 7 is the first readings. We have consideration of ordinance to close and abandon a 6-foot section of excess right-of-way for Wiley Parker Road. Stan?
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
You have the materials pertinent to this abandonment. This is a property that is being redeveloped. The building is being rebuilt on this site, and the site that was there previously was built under an old set of standards that we have amended over time, and now we're under new standards, and the owners of this and developers of this property would like to meet the current standards in terms of landscaping and parking, and we are encouraging of that. So to do that, they need a little bit more room. This is a wide right-of-way in this area, and it's a right-of-way that we have plenty at this point, so this is not taking anything away from us, but it would give them a little bit more room and would allow them to landscape and develop the site and make it look more attractive. So we are recommending this to you, and the Planning Commission has recommended it to you also.
Okay, any questions of council? Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
The motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second. Before we vote, let's open, this is a reading, first reading on this ordinance. See if there's anyone here who would like to speak in support of or in opposition to the passage of this ordinance. Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 2 is consideration of an ordinance to close and abandon a portion of Preston Alley running north from Preston Street to an unnamed alley. No, sorry. Let's go back up to number 1 under second reading, if you would. Consideration of an ordinance to rezone property located at 428 North Cumberland Street from RG3 General Residential District to RG3H General Residential Historic District containing 0.28 acres submitted by Kathy Leatherwood. It's the second reading.
This
Is
was
there-
approved on first reading.
Is there a motion from council?
So moved.
Motion is second. Discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
And we'll get to 2. Under second reading, consideration of ordinance to close and abandon a portion of Preston Alley running north from Preston Street to an unnamed alley. Council approves on first reading.
Move the adoption.
We have a motion for approval and second. Any discussion from council? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 3, under second reading, is consideration of ordinance to close and abandon an unimproved section of Birchwood running north from Charging Drive to a dead end.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, any discussion from council? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
We have item 4 also under second reading. Is consideration of amendment to an existing ordinance, Title 8, Alcoholic Beverages, Chapter 1, Intoxicating Liquors, Section 8-117, regarding sales to underage persons and persons visibly intoxicated.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion from council. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 9, under new business, if council has no objection, I'd like to move item 9 under new business to item 2, new business. No objection? Okay, we'll do that then. On new business, item 1 is consideration of resolution to repeal recent Tennessee legislation requiring photo identification for voting, proposed by Councilman Ernest Brooks II. Councilman?
Good morning, Mayor,
Morning.
Council. If you recall, I made a statement on this issue during the last city council meeting, and that's part of the record. Additionally, I passed out to my councilman an article in the Chattanooga Times Free Press. The title of the article is 96-year-old Chattanooga resident denied voting ID, for their perusal as well. I'd like to make that a part of the record as well. And just would urge my colleagues to support this resolution. This resolution is sponsored by a coalition of groups that not only include the Jackson-Madison County branch of the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, but also the League of Women Voters, as well as American Civil Liberties Union. And all of these groups believe that this new law creates artificial and insurmountable barriers to the ballot box that violate constitutional principles regarding fair and democratic participation. We all know how important the voting franchise is, and I would urge my colleagues at this time to support the resolution. While we don't have a vote in Nashville, we do have a voice here in Jackson. Thank you. And I move for the approval of the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion from council. Okay, council, please vote.
And the motion passes, I'm sorry. The motion fails because there were 2 that voted in favor, there were 3 that voted no, and there were 3 that abstained.
Okay, again, taking item 9, moving it to item 2 is consideration of a redistricting plan for the Jackson City Council as proposed by the NAACP and Councilman Ernest Brooks II. Anyone present who would like to speak on this matter? Ms. Carter?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Understanding that you have already passed a resolution adopting your charter and the assignment thereof with the redistricting process, as we've mentioned before. This process comes about every 10 years, and as a result of the U.S. Census, it is determined by the proportionality and the redistricting efforts of local governments as well as state and national government to do this every 10 years. This is the opportunity to do so. As we have mentioned before, the present map as drawn does not include the appropriate seats for the City Council, this body, to allow for another minority-majority seat. We have proposed to you the 5th District. Mr. Conger and I have talked, and I did receive the email in which he had a meeting on. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get there, but I think some of the information that was put into that email was a little bit skewed, but suffice to say that this is just the right thing to do. Some of you may or may not remember in a case, I believe it was Buchanan versus the City of Jackson, Mr. Buchanan, your father, back in the early 80s. It took until the late 90s before this suit was heard before Judge Todd. And as a result of that, the appropriate remedy for the lack of representation was to create, such as you have now, a city council form of government. The population, as you have been given a copy of by the, I believe, Councilman Brooks from the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, and I'd just like for the record to read it, if I may. It says, "Dear members of the City Council," this is written by the co-director for Voting Rights Project, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, Marcia Johnson Blanco. "Dear members of the City Council, I am the co-director of the Voting Rights Project of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law. I write on behalf of the Jackson-Madison County branch of the NAACP to urge you to reopen the redistricting process. Boy, that helps out a lot. And consider the illustrative plans submitted by the Jackson NAACP. Both the illustrated plans submitted to you on May the 3rd of 2011 and the supplemental plan attached to this letter reflects that it's possible to create a 4th district, minority district. Failure to do so risks a violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. In the case of Buchanan versus the City of Jackson, 77-1022, WD, Tennessee, the court found that the radically polarized voting existed in the then at-large system of election for the City of Jackson Board of Commissioners, and that the system denied or abridged the right to vote in violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. In remedying this violation, the court rejected a plan that would have elected 3 commissioners at large and 6 from the single-member district, and ordered use of a 9-member plan with election from single-member districts. The data from the 2010 census clearly show that the minority population in Jackson is sufficiently large and compact that 4 reasonably compact majority black districts can be drawn. Additionally, the data show that the growth within the minority population supports 4 such districts. Between 2000 and 2010, the population of the City of Jackson grew from 59,643 to 65,211 persons, while both the white and non-white population within Jackson grew over the 10-year period. The city's white population grew by only 650 individuals, or 1.98%. Compare this to the 6,584 persons, or 24.6% increase in Jackson's non-white population. Accounting for most of this latter increase is Jackson's black or African-American alone population, which rose from 25,091 to approximately 29,994 persons, a 19.54% growth. Overall, the black or African-American alone population group in Jackson now accounts for 44.85% of the total population. The white alone share of the total population is down from 55.13% in 2000 to what is barely a simple majority of 50.14% today. These trends are echoed in and if not amplified by changes to the structure of Jackson's voting age population, VAP. In 2000, the city's VAP was 44,216 individuals, of whom 59.73% were white alone and 37.33% were black or African American alone. Today, the VAP is 50,315 persons, representing a 10-year increase of 13.79%. During this time, while alone VAP rose by only 806 individuals, 3.05%, while black or African American alone VAP grew by 4,378 persons, or 26.24%. Black or African American alone individuals presently account for 41.86% of Jackson's VAP. The relative increase in black or African American share of VAP has resulted in a relatively decrease in the white alone share of VAP from 59.73% to 54.10%. The demographics shift noted above, especially as they relate to the relative and absolute increase in Jackson's black or African American alone overall and voting age populations, are not reflected in the newly adopted councilmatic districts. On the contrary, the adopted plan simply maintains 3 majority black VAP districts into which additional black or African American residents are unnecessarily packed. As a consequence, the significant increased black or African American population in Jackson will not be afforded any greater opportunity to elect representatives of their choice. We had some attached tables, as shown by the attached tables and supplemental illustrative map. Both illustrative plans submitted by the NAACP demonstrates that it readily is possible, consistent with traditional districting principles, to draw a plan with 4 majority black VAP districts that will fairly recognize the current population in the city of Jackson. If the city fails to address these concerns, it runs the risk of inviting renewal litigation. You can please contact the Lawyers Committee if you have any question or would like additional information. Sincerely, Marcia Johnson Blanco, Co-Director, Voting Rights Project, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under Law. We have been through this before. And it appears at this point that it only calls for a simple vote in order to adopt and/or modify the plans, so it does give the right reflection of the population here in the city of Jackson of the people that you represent. This city has too many African Americans not to be represented by an additional district. And Councilman Conger, we're not saying that you cannot represent these people. I think you're certainly able and capable of representing these folks, whether they're majority black or majority white. Your grandfather sat on that commission, and they fought it. But I think over a period of time, I think he understood that it was the right thing to do. In fact, we've talked about it afterwards, years later. You have a unique position in this community, and we want to see you prosper in this position. It does not call for, as I think you have understood, for you to be removed from this seat. Under law, you cannot be removed from this seat.
I never said that.
This will take effect in the year 2014 when it is time to go forward at that point in time. Anybody can run every 4 years. I think that this body will be making a grave mistake if we continue to highlight our differences as it relates to race, as it relates to representation of this body or any other body. If we continue to go down this road, I think we're inviting the type of dissension and the type of untrust that we have presently in this city. We don't need to open this chasm wider. We've got a lot more fish to fry, as they say. We've got a lot more things to be concerned with. I don't think the majority white population should be afraid of adding one more additional seat on this body. I think it's prudent. I think it'd be wise. I think it would show a faith that we're all in this thing together. Otherwise, we go down the same road we've been going down for the last 40, 50, 75, 100 years. We need to get beyond this. I pray tell that you do so with your vote. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for your
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Any comments from
I have a
council?
We know that redistricting takes effect on every level of government. My question to you is, how receptive is the county to your input on their redistricting plan?
We're having to go back and forth the same way. We'll be presenting an alternative in the next county commission meeting, not only with the county commission, but as you know, with 25 county commissioners, the original plan, which born out of the same lawsuit, had at least 10, if I'm not mistaken, 11 county commissioners from the African American community. We do have a a third of the population in the county, so it really dictates 9, 10, possibly 11 members from majority African American districts in the county. The same is true with the school board. Instead of having 2 out of 9 representatives, there needs to be at least one more, I would ask you to tell me what is wrong with African American participation in this city form of government or the county or the school board to increase that participation. I'm sorry, I'm at a loss to understand why is this such an issue in order to do the right thing.
What is preventing them from running, Mr. Carter?
Beg your pardon?
What prevents them from running?
There's nothing preventing them from running, Councilman. I think that the law recognizes,
Well,
particularly
how
voting
is
rights
the
section,
redistricting going to affect that?
it will allow for more African Americans in that district, the same as it allows now for more whites in that district.
So your contention is that only an African American can represent an
That's
African
not what I
American?
said. I think I indicated to Councilman Conger that he cannot be drawn out of that district, and as all of you know, in 2014, you'll be running for that position again. That position is not guaranteed to anybody. It's not owned by any one of you, single individual. It's owned by the people in that district. I think with any district, if you work hard, you become that representative, and you can stay as long as you're performing the duties of a representative in that district. We can't guarantee that you'll be reelected. I don't think anybody can guarantee that.
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
please correct me if I'm wrong, but I hear your presumption being that white people vote for white people and black people vote for black people.
No, you
And-
misread the,
and, you know, that's not my voting record. So I don't understand why you think if there are more blacks in any one district, they will necessarily win or lose. I don't understand that.
well, I think oftentimes when we do not recount our history, when we fail to recognize that there has been, and still today, issues of discrimination because of representation. I hope that you don't deny that there is racial discrimination in different fractions, all of our communities. Since Reconstruction, back in the 1870s, when African Americans held seats of elected positions locally, statewide, and nationally, up until that time when things were going, this is after the Civil War, when things were going the way that I think a lot of people in this country, black and white, envisioned it after that horrendous war, that we were starting to do the right thing, and then Jim Crow raised his ugly head, and we reverted back to the same things that they did prior to the Civil War, hence the voter ID bill. You have a guaranteed right to vote by the Constitution, but when you put up what we call these type of laws that disallow or discourage participation, that is what we call the Jim Crow type of laws and the efforts that keep people from voting. 25% of African Americans do not have voting ID, picture ID cards for whatever reason. Other minorities do not as well, and as you know very well, that the state of Tennessee allows for seniors, it used to did up until the point of this law, to not have any pictures on their ID card. You can vote with a gun card, picture ID, but you can't vote with a state authorized college ID. But the point of the matter is that now we're reverting back to those points in times to where we know that if we had 30% representation on the county commission, things would be different. I got a feeling they would be different. Because oftentimes the interests of the African Americans, just like the one you just voted down, we don't have that luxury of having the type of influence on a lot of different proposals that's come before this body. Because even though the interest is there to be successful in some of these proposals, you don't have the same mindset of those that are representing African American folk. So it's not that you can't, it's almost down to a willingness if you will or not, and that's a personal decision that you make. Your assumptions, I think, is erroneous in terms of whether or not a white person could represent this district, as I've indicated to Councilman Conger. Yes, he can. There's nothing prevents him from running. There's nothing prevents him from being successful. But if you take that mindset, you flip it over and you say, well, if I'm thinking like that, then what are the African American people in that district thinking? So I think that it is the right thing to do. The courts have deemed it so. The courts have been the friends of people of lesser means and less power because the majority has been unwilling to share it. That is one that unfortunately is a fact, and I hope that road doesn't continue down this path.
Well, as a council representing District 1, I've asked a lot of people there, and they like the city plan.
Well, I'm sure they do.
Probably
The
for
majority
District
would
1.
like it, unfortunately, but that's
And
the rub.
I'm supporting them today, and I have to
Understood, and I
listen to them.
respect your decision.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
Harrell, can you explain how voting age population affects the numbers and why voting age population is important?
Oftentimes, and again, going back to cities, counties, local governments, and state government, oftentimes the issue that was mentioned in this letter of packing. Packing is a concept of where you would pack a large number of people of like kind in a district, however, not giving a majority voting age population, because in effect, if you have 100 blacks in one district and they only have 30 of them that can vote, you just got a lot of blacks in a district. That's called packing, and that's treated as illegal and a red flag for sure when it comes times for districting. We have got in one district, I believe, in Councilman Buchanan district, it's close to 90%. Voting age population, I think, in the original proposed plans was less than 50%. In the Councilman Dodd district, I think it was 81, 82%. Again, you're showing majority black districts, but really the voting age population is not consistent with those districts. There's all kind of ways to frame the debate and understanding that we do in the South and we do in Jackson. We have a race issue, there's no question about that. But I'm thinking with leaders such as yourselves can get beyond that particular issue, lead the way, come out on faith to say we can do better than this. And of course, there'll always be people that's negative on trying to increase the African American population. We understand that in terms of its power base. That's been consistent for as long as I can remember. And I hope that you all are not short-sighted on that.
My last question, Mr. Carter, is are you asking us to reopen the redistricting process, or are you asking us to accept the NAACP proposal?
When we started this process, and again, there was some misconceptions, and we did, and I have to apologize to Stan because we missed that email that we received after you had proposed us getting together. And as a result, the city adopted its own plan. What we're asking is that we come back. We've shown that it can be done. It can be shown in more than one way that you can do this by drawing the lines. Technology is wonderful these days. We can modify your plan or accept the plan that we have. There's no one way of doing it. There's several means of doing exactly what we're talking about. We've drew several models. Some that I felt like that I think it put Councilman Foote up in the north of the interstate, and I knew that she was not going to go for that. But I do think that there's a way to do this that is palatable for everybody. This is not something that is difficult or should be treated as something that that is impossible to do. It's not. It's very simple to do. The real question is whether or not we're willing to share the power with the folks that we have, in some cases, been uncomfortable with. I understand how that works and what is being said. I think, Councilman, to answer your question, there's many ways that we can do this. We can either adopt this plan or we can modify the plan that you have to make it acceptable to everyone.
I believe there was a misunderstanding on what I said about redistricting and drawing the lines and drawing me out. What I said was that some people in the city of Jackson, now this won't happen again until 2081. We won't have an election year followed by a redistricting year until 2081. Many of us in here won't have to worry about that again. My concern is, one of my concerns is that the lines are redrawn, which means people who voted in the May election had a city councilman come July 1st that they didn't vote for. Not that their candidate lost, they were redistricted, and they had a councilman they did not vote for. If the lines are redrawn again, there's a possibility that those same people could have a third councilman because the lines are redrawn that they did not vote for. And that takes away the power of the vote right there. Now, I've appealed to my District 5 constituents, and they've written emails, and I would like now to submit these emails to the city record in their opposition to this.
Let me, Councilman, answer your question I think that you had, and I think it's 2021, not 81.
No, 81 is next time that the city elections will hold on a redistricting year. Every 4 years, we hold elections on odd years.
2014?
2015 is when we hold elections.
Okay. 2015, when you hold election. You will hold that seat if it's your seat. You would hold that seat up until that time. At that time, you would run as you normally would run anyway.
I believe we're talking about two different things right here.
Well, what are you talking about?
If the plan is adopted, we have to send a plan to the state of Tennessee to be adopted. The lines have to be finalized by the General Assembly. We have already adopted one plan. We have redistricted the city once already this year. Some people who have voted for their council person in the May election were drawn out of that district. So they have a new district. For instance, people on West King who voted for a District 5 candidate have a District 2 city councilman now. This plan could, in fact, be redrawn again and have them a third city councilman in a 6-month time span, 2 of which they did not vote for.
I think that's a very unlikely proposition. I think, maybe Stan could help me out here, but I believe that nothing will change. No election will be held until their next city election in 2015, right?
I'm not referring to city elections. I'm referring to the district lines being redrawn.
Well, this wouldn't take effect until the next election. I mean, you're representing the district. What it does is just pushes this whole thing down the road for the next 4 years.
We've already
And-
redrawn once.
Well, that's okay. The point is that it won't take effect until the next city election. Stan, is it anything different from that?
I believe what Councilman Conger is referring to is representation, not election.
Right.
And what he's talking about is that when the plan is adopted, that plan becomes effective, and that representation then becomes what the plan shows. Now, the effect of that plan doesn't happen until an election that actually puts people in office, and that's election issues. But in terms of representation, the representation changes when that new plan goes into effect, and that's the difference. That's what he's talking about here.
And that is correct, because I have people who were not able to vote for me in the May election, but I am their city council person now, so, because of that.
But that's all
So,
of us.
Scott's correct, that would be a third one.
Is that the norm, Stan?
You would be my city council person,
We would be running against each other.
but you would be my city council person.
I can't really address whether that's the norm or not. I can address the process that we followed, which was an appropriate process. I can address the plan that was created. I can address the plan that you've submitted, but as to being a norm about that, that really doesn't figure into what I do.
Well, I mean, it might be different here than maybe any place else, but I've never encountered that. But let me just say this, and I close. I think it appears that some of you have your mind made up. This process starts, we all know it's coming, long before it gets here. We, as citizens, depend on you, the city council, to do the right and appropriate thing. When that doesn't happen, when the representatives does not present a viable plan that's an inclusive plan, then this is when the NAACP gets involved, or other entities. It could be a citizen get involved, like it was back in the late 1980s. So I don't want you to think that the NAACP is trying to drive something down your throat, because we are only involved because of the absence of those that drew the original plan that was not inclusive. Now, I say that to say that we're all charged with doing the right thing, and I think that this is the right thing to do.
I have a quick question to make. Stan, could you address the issue that Harrell raised relative to packing the minority districts?
I can, let me say that the process by which we reapportion is a pretty standard process. It's been followed for some time, and we all know that that redistricting process starts when the new census results come out. So I feel like there was much opportunity given during the redistricting process for the NAACP to be heard, to be involved, to be initiated into that process. And so regardless of whether one email or whatever was not received or picked up on, I just wanted to say that there was many opportunities. Secondly, let me just say that when we reapportion, we look at historically where areas geographically, where they have voted, where they are located geographically, the demographics of the area naturally occurring, not artificially occurring, but naturally occurring, what the demographics of the area are. And there's never any emphasis on my part to pack, to dilute, to take away the one man, one vote aspects of the process. And what we did in the process that we followed this time was the same process we always follow, which is the fundamental process that's available, is that you look at the districts as they exist. You look historically at where people have voted, which becomes a very inherent right to a lot of people, where they vote and where they have historically, who's represented them over time, what district they've been associated with. That becomes a core value to a lot of people in the voting process. And so we try to treat that as having importance. And so that's what we did in this one. And I'll say that the plan that was submitted by the NAACP, I have some very strong reservations about it, because it, one, takes districts that have historically been associated with a certain group, a certain representation, and it skews those to now have, like District 2 that has historically been an East Jackson district. Now it represents North Interstate, Christmasville Road. You've got District 1 that has historically been a South Jackson district, now represents out at Country Club Lane. You've got districts where the incumbents now will be vying against each other. I thought I'd never see a situation where I had the district person for the South, District 1, vying against the councilman, Randy Wallace, who represents District 7, North Interstate. So, I mean, under this plan, they would. Also, under this plan, you have Harvey Buchanan, who has historically been associated in the area around Lane and Hayes, and now he's going to be running against Charles Rahm, who is located around Hopper Barker Road, North Interstate. So, to me, that creates disenfranchisement regardless of race, because now you have areas that have historically never been connected, never been associated with each other, never been a part of the districts, now being a part of a district that in some cases I would say dilutes in other areas. So I'm just saying I have strong reservations against plans that do that, and having incumbents vying against each other, that's not a fundamental right. You don't have to protect incumbents. But if we had thought incumbency was not important, or the council did, we could have taken that into account when we drew the plan and drew very nice square blocks, and not with disregard to who's there now. And so I feel like we've held to the process. I feel like we've recognized the process. I feel like we've respected the process. And I know there's always room for debate. I know you can always debate. I know with statistics you can draw lines all day long and come up with many iterations, as I did through this process, of various ways that you could draw these districts. But I will say in the process that we followed, there was never any intent to dilute, skew, pack, any of those terms that gets thrown around. It was trying to recognize the districts where they are geographically, trying to come up with demographics that closely match what has been in the past, and trying to create districts that make sense in terms of where people have historically been associated and voted. So, I mean, that's the best I can do.
That's fine, Stan, and surely you understand the difference between intent and effect, okay? And surely I'm not accusing you.
No. Again, I just want for the record to say
Sure.
that there's never, and I would say in this process, there has never been any intent or interest or effect to do any of those things. And again, I think there's many ways that you could come up with plans, and there's always pros and cons to all of them. But I don't feel like anyone was excluded from the process purposely or not given opportunity.
Okay. My next question, Stan, is did you take voting age population into account when you drew the districts?
Voting age population, while it is a criteria, it is the demographics are there. Again, we structure our analysis around trying to reach the optimum population and maintaining demographic balance in terms of what has traditionally been there and what is there now. So we do tend to weigh heavier on that side. but it doesn't mean that we disregard voting age either, so.
Thanks, Steve.
Mayor, I would
Mr.
like to
Chairman,
say,
Mr. Chairman,
We have, Councilman Buchanan, we had Councilman recognized Councilman Dodd.
I would like to say, when I was voted back in office in 1999, I ran for office because I wanted to represent the people. I didn't run because I wanted to represent black people or white people. I ran because I wanted to make a difference in my community and also in the city of Jackson. Right now, I think with the line was redrawn, the one that we voted on, I'm representing both. And I'm sure there's some over there that want Mr. Conger to be their city councilman, which I can understand that. And I'm willing to work with them. I'm willing to work with the people that I've always represented. But I think if we're gonna be fair, and I understand that you think what we already voted on was not fair, but all we're doing now, we say we got raises in the city. And basically what we're doing now is basically gonna bring the same thing back up, because the way the line's gonna be drawn, you're gonna have some people that don't want Johnny Dodd representing them, which are white people that we saying that we want to get more blacks on the council. But I ran for office because I wanted to represent people of the city of Jackson. And I'm not gonna do anything to hurt white people, I'm not gonna do anything to hate black people. I'm gonna do what's right and gonna vote what is right for the city of Jackson. And I don't wanna do anything to send a wrong message to the people that I'm representing, either way, black or white. I wanna do what's right for the city of Jackson.
Councilman Buchanan, you're recognized.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my colleagues and to Mr. Carter, representing the NAACP, I've listened intently to all that has been said with respect to redistricting of council seats. I've listened going back to the lawsuit of Buchanan Brooks and Seals. The lawsuit, which in fact won and made council seats of the Voting Rights Act, was taxation without representation. This council over the last 21 years has had representatives from the African American community as well as the white community. This council 6 years ago had 4 African American members, 4. In the election 7 years ago in District 5, an African American lost by less than 100 votes. What is actual and factual, there's no longer taxation without representation. Yes, the city of Jackson population after the 2010 census reflect that there is a 41 to 43% African Americans residing in the city. Yes, there are presently 3 African American members standing on the council. Yes, with respect to housing patterns, African Americans no longer live primarily in the East. There's 35% in the North, there's 38% in the South. The demographics have changed with respect to African Americans in the city of Jackson. The civil rights movement fought for housing patterns. What the civil rights movement fought for with respect to housing pattern is coming to fruition. With respect to stacking and packing and gerrymandering, we have African Americans all over this city now. I'm gonna tell you what's happening. African Americans are not fully exercising their constitutional right to vote to the fullest degree. The percentage of African Americans voting is depressing. The last few city elections, African Americans voter turnout ranged from 3 to 9%. A full concentration should be focused on voter participation. The strength is at the numbers at the voting precinct. What is factual? James E. Wolfe was elected to a council seat in a 70% predominantly white district. Pamela Marshall lost by less than 100 votes in an 81% white district. In summary, let us resolve to put our concentration and efforts on voter participation, diversity, and inclusion in any and all election. Housing patterns have changed. We're no longer on the other side of howling alone. If you take a poll in this room, it's probably only about 2 people live in East Jackson. Let us resolve to put our money and the energy and focus on tax money spending. Where is the money going? On the revitalization of neighborhoods, on crime reduction, on jobs, on economic empowerment. We as council members represent constituents, whether they're black, white, brown, or indifferent. It just happened to be that the council districts were drawn where the percentage of people live. It is very, 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 looking at the 2 plans. And we talk about stacking and packing, we talk about gerrymandering, but I'm looking at the 2 plans. And this is not a plan for Buchanan nor any other council member. We're talking about council districts. We're not talking about individuals. Whoever run for council districts, it would be asinine for a person to live on Hayes Street and to represent people out in Northside. It just don't make any sense at all. We must understand that African Americans live in all parts of Jackson now. The numbers are getting greater each year. I believe that diversity is taking place. We have fought the civil rights movement with housing patterns. The discrimination in housing patterns has changed. People can live wherever they want to live as long as they can toe the note. Let us resolve to put our energy and attention on diversity, inclusion, redevelopment, stabilization of neighborhoods, voter education, and participation. And I think this will make Jackson a better place. We have prolonged this for 7 months. We delayed it back in May for 30 days to get full inclusion of the 2 parties to talk about what needs to be done. It is time to get put to rest, and let's go about the services that this city of Jackson needs to supply to its citizens. Enough is enough. I remain.
Any other comments from council?
I just want to clear up one thing I said. When I said that the majority of the people that I've talked to in my district are in favor of the city plan, there is a group who are not, but the reason they're not is it's going to change their voter location. And that, to me, is just a moot point. They're just going to have to go to a different place to vote, and they're used to voting at Southside maybe, and they're going to have to go to another place in South Jackson. So I wanted to clear that up.
Okay, any other comments?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we reopen the redistricting process.
Okay, there is a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second? Okay, the motion dies for lack of a second. Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you.
Going to what is now item 3. It's consideration of authorizing disbursement of ERRP, Early Retirement Reinsurance Program funds, to all employees who are covered under the City of Jackson Medical Insurance Plan. I'll ask Keith and our risk manager, Valerie, to come up and give council a brief explanation of that particular program. Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
Well, I guess real quickly, the Affordable Care Act is the reason why we were able to get the funds for the early retiree reinsurance program. And it became effective June 29th of 2010. The Risk Management Office gathered information and submitted an application, and the application was approved in December of 2010. And in September of this year, we received the first funds of approximately $145,000 and some change. And the mayor's office made a decision to take those funds and distribute it back to plan participants. And that is what we are here today asking you to do.
Any questions from council as to,
I have a quick question. This was through the Obama stimulus plan?
It's the Affordable Care Act, which was a secondary act as part of the healthcare reform.
Okay.
Mayor?
Sure.
So
Go
it's
ahead,
not,
Council.
not the stimulus plan, it's the
Healthcare
Affordable Care Act. Thank you.
Councilman Wallace?
In essence, we're just refunding some of the money that the employees paid on their old health insurance then.
Not exactly. We have high claims with our retirees, and this particular act allowed us to pull the numbers on all of the claims that the city of Jackson paid for early retirees for medical costs, medical care. And there's a formula used by Department of Health and Human Services to calculate the amount that a plan provider would get back. And with that formula, based upon what we spent and the top cost and the boundaries put in place, we got back the $145,000. There are restrictions on how the funds can be used, and they're basically about 3 ways. So, and we have opted to assist city employees or all plan participants in the health care with a combination of co-insurance payment, deductibles, and out-of-pocket expenses according to health insurance. And it can be for a period of more than 1 plan year.
Okay, my question is the city employees are paying part of the health insurance?
Oh, yes,
And this
absolutely.
money is just helping reimburse them for part of what they paid?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? Let me just commend Valerie and Keith, our consultant on medical plan, for chasing this down and getting the application completed and getting it approved and getting the funds in here. And the funds have been in since,
The last of September,
Okay.
September 29th.
okay. Any other questions from council?
Motion to approve.
Have a
Second.
motion for approve. Have a second. Any discussion? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4 is consideration of a resolution for a salary supplement in the amount of $500 for the fiscal year 2012 for regular full-time active employees, regular part-time employees who were hired on or before January the 1st, 2007, and who have received regular paychecks for the past 3 years, and for retirees, beneficiaries of the pension plan in place prior to May 1st, 1974. Council will recall that back when we approved the budget, that there was no increase proposed in that budget for employees, preferring to wait until mid-year after the damages from high winds and floods to see where we were financially. And I think now, obviously, we're in a position to where we can afford to go ahead and reward our employees, because other forms of local government and the state government receive those additional benefits this past July.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
first of all, let me commend your administration and your staff for such sound fiscal management, which enables us to have the surplus today. We're happy and elated that this is happening throughout the country. Other cities are suffering, but through your administration and yourself, good management, we commend your efforts and to honor your and honor your employees and give them bonuses. And I'll make the motion and that we approve this bonus for all employees of the city of Jackson.
I second that motion.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Before we do that, and before we commend you, Mayor, what's the total price tag?
400 and.
69,000.
469,000
Okay.
roughly.
I guess
And again.
the commendation is in order now.
Okay.
Thank
very
you.
good. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
I believe my understanding is correct that they will not have deductions out of that.
Yeah, they will.
They
On the
will.
salary supplement, they will
Yes.
have the
Out of the
deductions.
salary, not out of the
Which will
insurance.
roughly be 25% roughly out of the reinsurance program. There will be no deductions from it.
Okay, so out of this bonus, there will just be taxes?
Taxes,
will it be
regular
also
deductions,
retirement and so forth?
retiring and
Okay.
FICA, yeah.
Someone asked me to ask that question, so I've asked it and we have the
Yeah.
answer, okay.
Okay, any other questions from council? We have a motion and a second. Council, please vote.
is unanimous.
Item 5 is proposed sale of surplus city property located at 809 East Lafayette Street for $1,099.
Move the approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. In discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 6 is proposed write-off of delinquent 2010 property taxes less than $20 before transfer to Chancery. I think council has a breakdown of those and has an explanation of why we prefer to write them off rather than trying to collect them.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion from council? Not council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 7 is consideration of resolution to approve the City of Jackson, Tennessee debt management policy as revised to reflect the state mandated language per MTAS published guidelines.
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion to accept and properly second. Any discussion from council? Council, please vote.
And the motion passes with 7 in favor and 1 abstaining.
Item 8 is consideration of equipment lease between City of Jackson and Pope Goff. I think you saw the two pieces of equipment, which is no longer required for use by the city in order to go ahead and lease this basically for golf course operations.
So moved.
A motion made, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 9 is consideration of a donation of a surplus 1984 fire truck to a local fire union, 1850. We have members of the union here. If council has any questions, I think their plans are to take this proposed donated piece of equipment and use it for activities that they're involved in during the year, parades, et cetera.
Move to accept.
I have a
Second.
motion to accept. Second. Any questions from council?
Just, you hinted at this, but just so everyone knows, it certainly won't be used to go fight any fires. It's not in that kind of condition. It's just going to be for display. Okay.
Okay. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 10 is consideration of outstanding check write-offs. Anyone want to discuss that, or is there a motion for approval?
I so move.
Approve. Okay, we have a move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Discussion, council? Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Item 11 is approval of budget amendments.
The budget amendment before you is for the salary supplement that was just approved, and it breaks it down among the funds as far as what will be transferred in. The general fund will be $419,785.10. For the Old City Pension Plan, $26,374. For the Sportsplex Fund, $4,996.40. And for Health and Sanitation, $18,111.93.
Okay, is there a motion for approval of that budget amendment?
So moved.
Motion second. Discussion from council. Council, please vote.
And the motion passes with 7 in favor and 1 abstaining.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Item 12 is, I think before we get to item 12, let me just remind the council that Mr. Black, our Christmas parade is on for this evening. Christmas tree lighting at 5:30 in front of City Hall, and the parade will start at 6:30? 6:45 is when we pull out, so remind the council of that. Okay, item 12 is consideration of invoices over $10,000.
So moved.
Have a
Second.
motion, a second, discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
There being no further business, meeting is adjourned.